Let's talk about our right hand. So right hand for right-handed golfers, or your trail hand if we want to, so our left-handed golfers don't become too confused. There is no doubt that if you are working on your game, either by having lessons or videoing your own swing, the likelihood is that you have been identified that you need to improve your right arm relationship, either in the backswing or particularly in the downswing. And I want to focus on the downswing. And the reason why is because I get a lot of students that sort of reach out for help, and the majority of them don't move the trail arm correctly. Very common amateur problem. And what I try and get them to do is understand how to move it correctly and give them that sense of whipping the golf club through the ball. So let's first of all, the problem that happens with most amateur golfers is as you initiate the downswing, you move the arm this way. Okay, so what happens is that the handle gets pulled down, the right elbow doesn't move to the side of the body, and this has a sort of steepening effect on the club as I'm demonstrating here. Now, what will then happen is, depending on the kind of golfer you are, you'll either just carry on with that and you'll swing over the top, or a lot of golfers move this way and then they try and move their body. See what I'm doing here? So now the club's back on plane, but then when you look at your swing from a sidearm perspective, this also explains why you're massively leaning back and get stuck behind the ball. So the first things first, what you really want to be doing is making sure as you initiate this downswing, you're getting the sensation that your chest is moving more down and over your left leg. This is a good rotational movement, and this is one of the things that you really want to be incorporating, because you're not going to get that club to release correctly without some sort of rotational movement coming into the downswing. So then what happens is we need to think a bit about what this arm is doing, and I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about what it should do, but then also talk a little bit about the feeling, which is going to be very different. What needs to happen is a couple of movements. One, your upper arm needs to move to the side of your body as your lower arm moves away from your upper arm, as I'm demonstrating here. And as you start to do this movement, as long as you keep the right forearm pointing up towards the sky, this is a shallowing motion, as I'm demonstrating like so. And this is why we also get those sensations of Hogan would talk about driving the elbow, people like Mo Norman would talk about dropping the right shoulder down, and then a lot of other instruction will talk about throwing the club. There's an element of subjectivity, I suppose, as to what it really feels like, but the point is that's what needs to happen. And if I sort of introduce my swing buddy here, we can already sort of tell that if I'm going to pull down on the club this way, it's more likely going to hit me than anything else. If I do it the other way, then all of a sudden I'm going to get width. And that basically means the weight, and I can feel the end of this rope here is moving more out towards the wall away from me. So all of a sudden, if I start incorporating a rotation and that right arm straightening motion, I'm going to start to introduce a lot of a whipping sound. That's why it's really good. Now, let's talk a little bit about feelings. Okay, so if I was to set up to the sidearm perspective here, like so, and what needs to happen is if I get set up to the golf ball, my club face would aim in the direction where I'm obviously wanting to hit. But the big thing is when you hit the golf ball, you don't want your body to be as parallel it was in the address position, right? What you want to do is you want to be more open. So if I open up my pelvis, say 45 degrees, I open up my chest and I open up my shoulders, say 15, 20 degrees, what happens is the club face now theoretically is, if it was aligned to where my shoulders are, it would now be pointing left. So obviously now my club face is open in relation to where my shoulders are. Now, the other thing you sort of notice is when it comes to shaft lean. So if I open up my body, as I'm demonstrating here, can you see the way that that introduces an element of shaft lean? Because my left shoulder's moving further away from the club head, this is what creates that flattening motion as I'm demonstrating like this. So what I'm trying to say is if you are somebody who is trying to get more shaft lean and you're trying to move your arm like this, right, then that won't work. It's actually very much the opposite to that, and that's why your rotational motion is equally really, really important. So the feeling is, if we're in agreement that this arm needs to move like this, which is a widening move, we agree that the chest needs to move this way because that helps us rotate and open up the body at the point of impact, then really the thing that you have to be a little bit braver with is keeping the face open. So if I sort of swing up to the top of my backswing here and I turn my chest over this left leg, if I sort of get the feeling of trying to rotate my arms to square the face, I'm going to come down steep. If I get the feeling of keeping my right forearm up to the sky, so the way now my club face will feel way more open relative to the target line, and that's the feeling that you need to have, and that's that sort of scary sensation that I try and get all my students to discover, because once you can get that feeling, then you're going to whip the club through and hit some lovely straight shots. I'll see you soon.